Hey everyone, it's Just Monster Hunting here, and today I want to explain why every weapon in the Monster Hunter series is the best weapon. Now before I begin, I'd like to take a moment to give you some insight into who I am. Now I'm a veteran Monster Hunter player. I have over 3,000 hours spread across the series, which that isn't that many compared to other players. I prefer to solo monsters and learn the ins and outs of each one, and I play almost all of the weapons. I have experience with Monster Hunter Freedom Unite, 3 Ultimate, 4 Ultimate, Generations Ultimate, Iceborne, and now Sunbreak. So I'm a fairly seasoned player. Not the best though. So with that out of the way, I will explain why every weapon in the Monster Hunter series is the best weapon. Now as my first point, I want to make it very clear that there is no best weapon in Monster Hunter, because it all relies on what the player likes using and what the pros and cons are to the player's weapon. Some weapons have high mobility while others have low mobility, and some weapons attack quickly while others will attack slowly. It all depends on what the player favors using. As an example of a weapon's pros and cons, a pro for Switch Axe is that it has good range, but a con of it is that it attacks slowly. Another con of Switch Axe is that the player needs to avoid damage by having good positioning or by iframing attacks. Or in Sunbreak, they can use the Wire Step Silkbind move to avoid damage. On the other hand, if we take a look at the Sword and Shield, we see that some of its cons are that it has a small range and its attacks are a bit weak. However, a few of the Sword and Shield's pros are that it has high mobility, a strong counter, the ability to block, and it even has access to iframes with its back hop. Now moving on to my second point, I want to explain the concept of call and response in Monster Hunter. Now Monster Hunter's skill comes from mastery of a monster's call and response. What I mean by this is a player who can react to a monster's attack, which is the call, and then effectively have a punish ready, which is a response, will have proficiency in fighting that specific monster. To have an effective call, the player has to know what the monster can and sometimes will do. As an example, I know that when a high rank Rathian is enraged, she will almost always follow up a tail flip with a second tail flip. So if I predict what Rathian will do next, I can effectively punish or respond to her attack. A player has to have an effective response, which is where knowing your weapon comes in. The response is simply the player punishing the monster. As an example, a Sword and Shield player can respond to a Rathian's tail flip by using their counter. This is an effective response to the tail flip because it builds up KO and has a great chance at knocking Rathian out of the air. A player needs to know what the best response to a monster is based on their weapon and what the monster is about to do. With an understanding of call and response, I can go into my third point, which is that every weapon fights the monsters in a certain way. Each weapon is a different way of playing this call and response game with the monster. Some weapons require more skill with the weapon or more knowledge of the monster to play better. For example, a greatsword player will need to know a monster's calls in order to effectively use their weapon. Meanwhile, a sword and shield player or dual blades player can play decently without knowing monsters' calls, because that weapon type is based on reactively playing with the monster. Thank you all so very much for watching. Now, I will say that I apologize because this video is not very good. I'm not proud of this video because my original version of it was corrupted when it was nearing completion, so I unfortunately had to slap the video back together before today so that I could meet my weekly upload schedule. But again, thank you all so very much for watching, and I hope you have a good one. Bye-bye.